money after we start.
Trust me, there's going to be a lot more of them.
From them?
Oh yeah, there's plenty from us as well. We passed the Veterans Affairs Reform Bill last week. It won't solve all the problems. We're trying to address the immediate crisis, which is veterans literally dying, waiting for appointments at hospitals all around the country. So we're going to let veterans who've waited for more than 30 days or live more than 40 miles away from a VA facility seek care in their local community, from hospitals, clinics, from local healthcare providers. We're going to hire more doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners at our VA facilities to make sure that we have enough healthcare providers to care for those veterans. And we're going to provide new tools to VA management that will allow senior VA leaders to discipline or even fire people who are performing poorly or engaged in misconduct, who are more worried about protecting their bureaucratic turf or their own paycheck rather than getting veterans the care they need.
You see anything opening up that, I know we're spending billions on foreign aid, and our soldiers, take a veteran like myself,
yeah,
it's almost impossible to get in on VA health care. And you see anything like that opening up where maybe more veterans will have access?
Yeah, that's the design of the bill last week. It's a temporary measure, but we hope that it'll show that veterans can seek care in their local communities, sometimes faster and better than they can in a VA hospital. A lot of veterans get good care at VA hospitals or other medical facilities, but they also have a lot of good care in their local communities, good hospitals, good clinics. And we hope that this pilot program will show that if we give veterans more choice, that it'll improve care for veterans and it'll improve our VA system too.
Congressman, what are your thoughts about the Harris poll yesterday that came out that indicated that Arkansas has cut in half the number of uninsured people with the passage of the Affordable Care Act?
I haven't seen that poll, but the thing about Obamacare is it no doubt helped some people, but think about all the people it hurt and the ways it hurt them. It caused people to have their insurance canceled, or it drove up the cost of their health insurance premiums, or it cost them access to their doctor, or imposed new taxes. It caused them to lose their job or have their hours cut. It added trillions of dollars of new spending. There's ways that we can get affordable, quality health care available to all Arkansans and all Americans without all those costs. So that's why I think we should repeal Obamacare and start over on health care reform.
What ways would you
So for instance, we can promote more competition for health insurance. So let people buy across state lines the same way they buy car insurance from the Geico Gecko or from Flo with Progressive. Let individuals get the similar tax benefits that businesses do when they buy health insurance. Let small businesses, which we have a lot of here in Arkansas, pull their resources together so they can have the same kind of negotiating power when buying health insurance for their employees as big businesses have. And then take some of our programs that help provide health insurance to lower income Arkansans and return those back to our state so that you don't have so much red tape from Washington, D.C. dictating the choices that we're going to make here in Arkansas from a one-size-fits-all standpoint. Those are all targeted solutions that would address a lot of the problems that led to Obamacare, but that Obamacare has worsened.
As a military man, you appreciate the importance of a forward deployment, putting resources close to where you think they're going to be needed to combat a mortal threat. A lot of people in the world right now think that Ebola is a mortal threat, not only to Africa, but to the United States. How would you feel about a forward deployment of American medical resources and personnel, logistical support to fight Ebola?
Well, we do have some Americans in Nigeria and Liberia already working through charitable organizations, as Americans do all around the country. Certainly, communicable diseases like Ebola can pose a real risk to Americans, not just overseas, but if it were to become pandemic levels across the world. So we want to monitor it closely, but I'm not sure that I'm qualified to opine on the kind of medical professionals that we want to put in places like Liberia or Nigeria. I'd leave those decisions up to the medical professionals and just make sure that we're doing everything we can to stop the spread of that disease in those places before it spreads worldwide. And that's not just about Ebola, that would be about any kind of massive communicable disease.
What do you think would be the role of the American government in such an event?
Well, obviously we have a lot of highly qualified medical professionals at places like the Centers for Disease Control. There are now 2 Ebola patients who are under monitoring and potentially going to receive treatment. And you could see lessons learned from that being applied not just through the American government, but handing out those lessons to nonprofit charitable organizations that work overseas or to the governments that are trying to contain outbreaks in their own country.
What do you look to happen with the Highway Aid Bill?
So
to move it forward?
I expect the president will sign that. He may have already signed it. That will be a short-term solution to get us through the summer construction season. That bill will come up again next May, and hopefully I'll be a part of the solution in the Senate to get a long-term highway funding bill that both funds critical infrastructure needs that we have here in Arkansas, roads and bridges, as opposed to the needs that local communities have in other states, like subways or bicycle paths or beautifying local roads. Those may be important priorities for big cities, but our highway fund needs to pay for roads and bridges, not big city products that don't benefit Arkansas.
Where do you think that funding is going to come from?
Well, that's why we have to look at reforming our highway trust fund expenditure so we're not wasting so much money on those projects that should be purely local, as well as on bureaucrats and their brand new offices in Washington, D.C. Just a few blocks from the Capitol, there's a brand new Department of Transportation building. It's gleaming, it's beautiful, not like anything I've seen around Arkansas lately. And then there's another one right next to it because they built two buildings on two different city blocks. If we didn't waste so much money on so many projects that aren't core roads and bridges, we'd have a lot more money for roads and bridges.